Hi, boys and girls. We have a great story this month. Let's get started. Jingle Joy was very happy to be a part of the children's family in Sugartown, although at times he had to admit that he missed his other Jingle friends. On this particular day, though, Jingle Joy was walking around the trading post when he heard some very familiar voices talking real low. He quickly darted behind a nearby tree and lowered himself toward the ground so as not to be seen. He very carefully lifted his little head to see for sure who it was. He was not a bit surprised by what he saw. Just sneaking off their pineapple boat was Mingle Jingle and Swingle Jingle. He watched as they crept toward the trading post and peeked into the back door.
Now's my chance to sneak up on them and give them some of their own medicine, he thought as he hopped from tree to tree until he had finally reached the trading post. Aha! He said in a big yelp, jumping out from behind them and scaring them something awful. I finally got you! And just what are you two doing here? The two Jingles were so glad to see that it was only Jingle Joy that they breathed a big sigh of relief. Whew. It's just you, replied Mingle Jingle. How you doing, old buddy? Long time no see. Just answer my question. Don't try to trick me. You know that doesn't work on me. Now what are you doing here? They have come for their pickup, interrupted Running Deer from the back door. Oh, hi, fellas. How are you doing? He said, turning to the two Jingle Bears. They nodded with their heads and answered that they were fine. And Jingle Joy, what's the big idea cornering my friends like this? They haven't done anything, said Running Deer with a stern look and placing his hands on his hips. Well, I was just minding my own business and I heard these two getting off their boat. I hid behind the tree so that I could see what they were up to. When I saw them sneaking toward the back storage room, I knew it couldn't mean anything except trouble. Running Deer walked over to Swingle Jingle and Mingle Jingle and stood in between them. And with a sharp tone in his voice, he replied, I don't ever want you hassling my friends again. They don't mean any harm. I let them come back here and to let me know when they're ready for their pickup. Fawn, after hearing all the talking from inside the trading post where she was busy working, called for Running Deer to come back to work. I'm coming, he replied sharply. Fawn sure can be particular about things getting done. They have to be just right or she won't be happy. Come on, fellas, let's get your things. And the three of them walked off in a huddle, leaving Jingle Joy standing there very confused. What could they be up to anyway, he wondered. There was never a time that those two would be a friend to anyone unless they are after something. And it just didn't seem right. And with that, Jingle Joy went on his way, promising himself to keep an eye on things.
Every day from then on, Jingle Joy made himself the official guard of the trading post. No one, of course, knew this, except himself. But each day he went back to that same little place where he had seen the two Jingles sneaking off their boat. He would lay real quietly on the ground in the tall grass and watch their every move. So far they had not missed a day. They would sneak off the boat, go to the back of the storage room at the trading post, and Running Deer would give them a bundle and they would give him a large sack. After they put their bundle in the boat, they would casually walk up to the trading counter where Fawn would give them their order in return for their fruits and juices. This was how they made all of their trades. Then off they would go back across Tiki Sea to Tiki Island. One day, while Jingle Joy was lying in his favorite spot watching, he felt a big thump in his side and heard a loud groan in the grass beside him. When he rolled over to see, it was Lil Markie.
Jingle Joy, shh, they will hear you, he said, pulling me to the ground alongside of him. What are you doing, and who will hear me? I asked, a little confused. Jingle Joy didn't say a word. He just pointed toward the trading post area. Standing up and about to brush myself off, he quickly pulled me down again next to him. This time I was a little upset. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Shh," was the only reply I got. So I just laid there and watched the two Jingles go to the back and trade a bundle with Running Deer, and then after placing it in their boat, they went to Fawn and filled their order. "What's going on?" I asked. Jingle Joy looked very excited to share his findings. "Well, each day they..." "You mean they do this each day?" "Yes, and some days they come 2 times. They are trading something with Running Deer. The best I am able to figure out is Running Deer is keeping that first bundle for himself." "Oh, I see," I said as I rolled onto my back. "You mean he is giving some of our supplies to them, and in return they give him this sort of trade?" "Yes," replied Jingle Joy. "What shall we do?" After a few moments of silence, I said, "Look at Jingle Joy," pointing to some squirrels in the tree up over us. "Can you see them?" "Yes, but," he replied, "do you see the small one is taking nuts from the tree where that other squirrel has been collecting them?" "Yes, but," said Jingle Joy, "just watch them a while." At last, Jingle Joy turned over onto his back and began to watch the squirrels. What looked like a game turned into an all-out war. The other squirrels attacked the smaller squirrel and not only took their nuts back, but also the ones that the little squirrel had gathered himself. "There, you see," I said. "That is what happens when you do something that you shouldn't do." "What do you mean, Markie?" asked Jingle Joy. "Whenever you are dishonest about something, God usually allows you to suffer the consequences. That means that you pay for what you do." Jingle Joy jumped to his feet. "I see. So you think that God will let the Jingles suffer the consequences?" "Yes, and so will Running Deer. It may not be right away, and it may take some time, but God is just, and sooner or later, it will all come out what is happening behind our backs. God tells us that whatever we sow, we will reap. In other words, if we sow kindness, we will have kindness returned to us. If we sow anger, we will have anger returned to us. God also expects us to be honest, and Running Deer, it seems, is certainly not being honest. And another thing, the things Running Deer is giving is coming from our supplies. That's the same as stealing. And by using our supplies, there may come a time when we won't have enough food, just because Running Deer is selfishly trading for what he wants." "Well, what are you going to do about it, Markie?" "Sometimes, Jingle, it is just better to let God handle things like this in his own time. I could go and stop Running Deer, but what would keep him from doing it again? And then we may be worse off than just letting him find out the hard way that it just doesn't pay to be selfish and dishonest." Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Doc and Nancy were quite busy with the sugar babies. It seemed that they had been eating something that had made them sick. In fact, several other people had been complaining about tummy aches the last few days. The poor sugar babies just laid in bed, holding their tummies and groaning. Since we didn't know what had made them sick, Doc and Nancy made up a special batch of honey and mint leaf tea, which seemed to help some. Each day, Running Deer was making all kinds of friends. Not quite the way anyone should try to make friends, though. He would have them do things for him, usually things he didn't want to do himself. And then he gave them something he had traded with the Jingle Bears. One day, as I was making my trip around town to see everyone, I noticed a very unusual thing happening. The normal things that needed to be getting done just seemed to be left incompleted. Like Bobby, who was supposed to be trimming the grass, was nowhere in sight. And Candy, instead of taking care of the Fudge House Hotel, was also missing, and on it went throughout town. You see, we all have certain responsibilities to do each day, and it doesn't take a lot of time if we do it right the first time. Then we have the rest of the day to play and do things we want to do. When I finally reached the trading post, I found to my surprise many of the children standing with Running Deer, accepting gifts from him. I walked up scratching my head. I asked, "What is everyone doing here? How come you aren't doing your jobs today?" Amber, looking up with a smile, replied, "Look, Markie, look what Running Deer gave each of us." And handing me a green apple, she continued, "We just helped Running Deer straighten the storage room, and he gives us this treat." "Oh, that is nice, Amber, but why isn't Running Deer doing his own work? And who's going to do all your work?" I asked. "We will, Markie," answered Bobby. "Besides, we like to get these treats." "Running Deer helped us, Markie," replied Amber. "He showed us where he wanted everything to go." "I see. And is he going to help you do all of your work, too?" "Well, I don't see how. Of course not," answered Running Deer. "How could I possibly do their work and my work, too? Anyway, they get well paid." "Yes, I can see. Now, before it gets any later, how about everyone returning to work, and we will discuss this another time," I replied. Running Deer's attitude was getting pretty bad, and so I wanted to tell him that God wasn't pleased with what he was doing. But I remembered what I had said to Jingle Joy about waiting on God and letting him take care of it. So I just patted Running Deer on the shoulder and said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm not too hard to find." "Talk to? Why would I need someone to talk to?" replied Running Deer. "I just want you to know that I am here if you need a friend," I said. Running Deer turned to walk away, and then for a moment acted as though he wanted to tell me something, but just couldn't. Not yet, anyway. A few days later, when it seemed that there was never going to be an end to Running Deer's poor attitude, Jingle Joy came up to me while I was eating at the Soda Fountain restaurant. "Markie, you won't believe what happened. The Jingle Bears are furious, and they're just—" "Slow down and tell me what has happened," I said, trying to calm him down. "It seems that all the sugar the Jingle Bears have been getting from Running Deer, and in addition to their usual supply, has been too much for them. And not only are some of them sick from eating too much, now they have a bigger problem with ants, because they didn't have a large enough place to store it, and they were hiding from the Jingle, and they're putting it in the ground containers, and the ants are taking over their sugar supply. Now the Jingle Bears are on their way over here to do who knows what. They are so angry at Running Deer. I'm afraid of what they might do." Okay. Get everyone together and meet me at the trading post as fast as you can. I'm going to get Running Deer, and I think it is time for him to start reaping a little of what he has sown.
That's the end of side one, boys and girls. Turn your tape over now for the rest of the story.
Shortly, we all met at the trading post. Everyone was very worried, not sure what was going to happen. The Jingle Bears didn't usually get angry. They just did sneaky things to have fun. But then no one had ever done anything like this before to them either. "Where's Running Deer?" someone asked. "I don't know. He wasn't at home when I went to get him." Just then Doc edged his way toward me. "Did I hear someone ask where Running Deer is?" "Yes," I replied, turning to him. "Well, I can tell you. He is at the hospital, very, very sick. It seems that the apples he has been giving away were not ripe, and that is what has been making everyone so sick." "Oh, no." "Well, it's not as bad as all that," said Doc. "Now that we know what the problem is, the tummy aches will all go away rather quickly. All except for Running Deer. I think there is something more than just green apples and a tummy ache bothering him." "Well, I'm glad it's not serious, and I do hope that Running Deer does get better soon, and more importantly, I hope he has learned a lesson from all this." It was then that we noticed the Jingle Bears arriving at the shore. Ringo Jingle was so angry that he just walked right past Jingle Joy toward me without even seeing him. Before he could say a word, though, Jingle Joy popped right in between us and began to explain. "Running Deer was wrong to do this to you, and he didn't know this would happen. No one else had anything to do with this. Please don't do anything you'll be sorry for. The children are so kind and loving and sweet," and it was like a calm just filled the air. Ringo Jingle sort of woke up from the daze, and just then noticed Jingle Joy. Grabbing him and pulling him close for a hug, he said, "Jingle Jangle, how are you?" "I'm fine, but I'm not Jingle Jangle anymore. The children call me Jingle Joy because I am so happy now and jump for joy. See, I have a jingle," he said, jumping all around. "So I see and hear, and a very nice jingle at that. So you see," Jingle Joy continued, "these children are all so nice, and even Running Deer didn't mean for this to happen." "I'm sure he didn't, but what is done, replied Ringle Jingle, his voice sounding a little upset again.
Well, boys and girls, as you can see, sometimes things don't turn out the way we think they will. I am sure if Running Deer had known that they would get sick from eating the apples, that he wouldn't have traded for them. Also, if he would have known that the Jingle Bears' supply of sugar would be taken over by ants, he would not have had anything to do with that. Sometimes we need to think about the consequences about what we're doing, and more importantly, would Jesus do this? Let's see what Running Deer learns from his mistakes.
"Ringo Jingle, did you know that Swingle Jingle and Mingle Jingle were trading bad green apples for extra sugar?" I asked. "No, I didn't. Is this true, fellas?" he asked, turning to them. Both with heads hanging just shook their heads yes. "And where did you keep this extra sugar?" he asked. Mingle Jingle, in a very low voice, replied, "In the storage room, in storage containers on the floor," he said with his voice getting so low Ringle Jingle could barely hear him. "You what?" shouted Ringle Jingle. "Well, no wonder the ants came and ruined our sugar supply. We only have enough room for one day, and we will never get rid of those ants now. Oh my, oh my, oh my, just what are we to do?" "I know," said a voice from the back of the group. As we all turned, we could see it was Running Deer. "I know how to get rid of them." "Do you really, Running Deer?" I asked. "How?" "Yes, Markie. Ants like to live in their little colonies like towns. They especially like little sweet things." "How do you know that?" asked Jingle Joy. "Well, because we Indians just know things like that. Ants are busy little insects. They go from place to place building colonies and making them bigger and bigger, carrying back food to their families. I guess I'm sort of like the ants too," he said, looking down at his moccasin. "I was sort of building my own little colony of friends. Everyone seemed to like me when I had something to give them, so I tried harder and harder to please them. Then I ended up causing them to get sick from the unripe apples." I walked over and gave him a gentle squeeze. "We never knew you were so lonely, Running Deer. You don't have to give gifts to make friends. And we are very sorry we haven't been more friendly to you, too. We will work as a team to do a better job, won't we, gang?" "Of course," they all agreed. "Now, what is your idea to get rid of the ants?" I asked. "Well," he began, "if we were to find them a special place and half of their own little colony and then give them a supply of sugar, we can let them trade work for supplies of sugar. Maybe we can be friends with them." "Do you really think it would work?" asked Ringle Jingle. "Yes, I do. Ants are real hard workers." "Let's try it then," replied Ringle Jingle, and the other Jingle Bears all agreed it was a good idea. "May I come to Tiki Island and help you, Ringle Jingle?" asked Running Deer. "Well, we don't usually let you all come over, but," he said with a little hesitantly, "I think we can let you this time." "But Running Deer," I called, "what about your tummy ache?" "Oh, I'm okay now, Markie," he said as he turned towards us all. "I don't think it was so much a tummy ache as it was a heartache." Looking at each one of us, he continued, "I am ashamed of what I have done. I was so wrong for stealing from our supplies and trading with the Jingle Bears for myself. I was really selfish when you think about it. You know, Markie, the other day when you asked if I ever needed a friend just to ask, I was too proud to admit it, but I thought it would be easier to buy friends with gifts, even if they weren't my gifts to give in the first place. I do need you, and I need all of you for my friends. I'm very sorry for this, and I will make it up to you. I will work extra hard helping each of you, Running Deer said. You don't have to do anything for us, just be yourself. We love you, Running Deer, just the way you are. Let's stop now and ask God to help you not to ever do this again. Okay, Markie. So we all knelt down right there in the sand next to the tiki sea.
The Jingle Bears just sat in their boats waiting for Running Deer to go with them, realizing that the children really were a great group of friends. Running Deer made a lot of friends after that day. Even Mingle Jingle and Swingle Jingle told him they were sorry for trading sour apples. Ringle Jingle had them help Running Deer with the ant colony too, and all the children learned some important lessons about being honest and how to be a good friend, and making sure that no one was left out in their friendships. They weren't quite sure if the ant colony would work out, but someday they will find that the ants are going to become very special friends to them too. Remember, gang, that Jesus is the best friend that anyone could ever have, and he will be your friend if you will just ask him to. Maybe like Running Deer, you need to ask God to forgive you of your sin. That's the bad we say and do and think. But also, ask Jesus to come and live in your heart. He will be your forever friend because Jesus really loves you. See you next time.
All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me. All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me. All that we need in this world are friends.
Forever.
In the sunshine or stormy weather. All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me. Beginning with you and me.
Wood pin and tomahawk, headdress too. These were the things I used. Now I make peace instead of war. That's what I choose to do.
And how? All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me.
Back at homeland in the east, we seek wisdom of old. Ancient Oriental proverbs say, friendship better than gold.
Our soul! All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me.
Baseball, hockey, and hide and seek. Isn't any fun when you're all alone? Friends make the difference in any game. Whether you're away or at home.
Hooray!
Yeah!
All that we need in this world are friends to keep us company. All that we need in this world are friends, beginning with you and me. Beginning with you and me. Beginning